I'll give you a macro view and a smaller view, a micro view. But it's been pretty massive so far. The worst thing and the thing that I wasn't expecting was the emotional impact that the virus had. I went into quarantine around the middle of March here in LA, and I had been watching a lot of TV and trying to get, as much information as I could about COVID-19, and all of that information was wrong. If you go back and look at it now, the information from early March was, half the people are going to die, and you're at an age where you're going to die for sure. So, it was like the American media was using this virus to get people to view their stations, and the way you get people to view their stations is they just try to scare the hell out of you. Well, it worked on me, and so when we got locked out of the studio, I went into like a tailspin emotionally. It was pretty rough for a couple of days, and then I came up with a plan. I canceled all my TV options and stayed away from anything that began with the C. So if it was Ka, I skipped it over. So I came out of that, and then now I've got to get accustomed to a new sound, a new room. So from a technical standpoint, that was kind of I've always worked in major studios my whole life. I had one home studio, but it was nothing to write home about. So I didn't handle it very well, I guess is what you could say. Fast forward to today, about the last half of May, I've been in pretty good shape. Real happy with my mixes, and real happy with where I'm at. I kind of have a plan for the future, and in talking to my friends, I'm not alone. It seems like a lot of people went through that same kind of pathway, and when this is, I've been doing music my entire life, literally, in one way or another. At first as a touring musician and a guitar player, and then for the last years I've been a mix engineer. That's all I know. So when that got taken away from me, I was like a fish out of water. And, I think I have a pathway now that in mind. Not knowing the future is a little bit tough for me sometimes. It's because I like to know what's ahead, and I think I've got a good plan.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, I've been struggling with pretty much the same things. It's been really hard, especially because I'm at the beginning of my career. So sometimes it's very hard to build momentum, and you feel like you've almost made it, and then this thing happens and it completely shatters everything that you've been working on for the past 6 months. So that was tough.
Yeah.
But you also got to realize that there's only so much you can control. So in that sense, I feel that this whole coronavirus outbreak was a great opportunity for me personally to grow and to kind of, become a little wiser and learn how to let go of things. But yeah, creatively it was a struggle, especially because I saw all my friends starting to post videos about, where they were playing and writing songs and this and that, and they seemed super creative, and I wasn't feeling inspired at all. So I don't know, did you struggle with that as well?
Well, yeah. At the beginning of the process of quarantine, and as it progressed, I thought to myself, man, this is going to be a great opportunity for me to thin out my plugins folder, and because I got too many, and I don't like seeing all that many. I want to just look at a few classic plugins, and I can clean the house. I can update all my plugins. I can I can learn how to use this piece of gear, this plugin. Yeah. I can get up to speed more on writing code and stuff, and none of that happened. It seems like it seems like I have less time now than I had before I was in quarantine. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
so weird. And it also seems like um, I've only been out of commission. Well, not commission because I still mix every day. But the biggest help of all was I'm blessed to have an incredibly gifted group of ex-assistants and current assistants. So you met Nico.
Yeah.
And Nico really helped me out a lot. And Jaime, I think you met Jaime when you were there too.
Yeah, I met both of them.
Yeah, Jaime really helped me out. Early on, I wanted to make sure that what I was hearing was what I was hearing. So I would send it to, I wouldn't send the whole song, but I usually just send a piece of an instrumental to Nico or to Jaime or some of my assistants that are doing really well. And that kind of helped me understand what I was hearing in my room. But I think for me personally, I'll be back up to speed, full speed ahead, sometime in between 2 weeks and 4 weeks, maybe sooner.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I that seems very smart. Like you try to maximize your time and also schedule some time off to relax, because being home like all day long, the risk for a lot of people, I think, was to kind of get overwhelmed with all the all the things that you always neglected, and oh, I have to do this, I have to do that, and then all of a sudden you realize that even though you're home 24/7, you're more tired than ever. So that's really interesting. Yeah. But what really, like, something that I've really been thinking about a lot lately is the long-term impact that this thing will have on our industry, because so many people rely on live music, on live shows, and people say that we're not going to be able to go back to normal for another few months, could even be 6 months or whatever. So some people say that, like, for example, this is going to push companies like Spotify and Apple Music to give more money to the artists. And even though I don't know whether that's actually going to happen, but I'm really curious, because you've been in the business for so long. What do you think will be the long-term effects of this outbreak?
Yeah. Well, let me preface by saying I went back a couple of days ago and I Googled the predictions that were being made in February. And those predictions for America were that 50% of the population would catch the virus. If you were over 65, it was a death sentence. You're going to die. You got an 80% chance of dying. And if you go outside, you catch it. You're going to catch it no matter what. And so that was part of what threw me in a little bit of a tailspin emotionally. But today, I don't believe anything. I don't believe anything that has to do with the virus, because if we've learned one conclusive thing about this virus, and that's nobody knows what the hell it's doing. To this day, they're finding they're offering the things that were scaring us even a month ago. They're different now, partly because viruses mutate. So it's not a static enemy that we have here with this virus. It's a moving enemy, and it can't be predicted. And so right now, I've got friends that think it's almost over, and so they're just happily going around and not taking any precautions. Well, it's not quite like that. But so I think what's going to happen is I already see it with a lot of my friends. They're not going back to major studios. I know some engineers that are top 25, and but they're staying at their home studios. couple of them have already started construction on a standalone building on their property. Some of them are converting garages. Some of them are converting playrooms and big rooms. And so that's going to be an interesting trend for the major studios to deal with. The major studios, the top 10 studios in America probably won't have too many problems because, Beyonce is not going to drop by your bedroom. You know what I'm saying? So there'll always be a need for a few of the major facilities. They're gonna all fight for the pieces of food that are out there, and then the ones that do the best job will probably be every major city that does music, like LA, New York, and Nashville. We'll have a few studios, and probably one or two will make it through the transition. But I think in terms of my world, I think it's going to be different, and I don't think it's going to be better or worse. I'm not gonna lie. I like being in a major studio with people fussing over me, and my car's washed, and my meals are free, and they take my laundry, and everybody tells me how great I am, and the staff is there just to make my life happy, and I got snacks, I got my own refrigerators, I got unlimited food budgets. That's not a bad way to live, But I think those days have since the early 2000s. Those days have kind of been going. I'm not going to tell you what studio, but I about 7 or 8 years ago, I was doing a session and I got a call from the label. And, what is this charge for fruit? Well, I ate an apple and an orange, and they charged for it, and $300 for an SPX 90 for rentals. I'm like, man, I didn't know. I just wanted some fruit. I just ate the fruit that they put out there. Nobody told me they were going to charge for it. Now, who charges $300 for an SPX 90? You can buy one for $200, and so that studio is now out of business, by the way. And so I think we need to look at the future as opportunities, and this will end. And now I think is the time to position yourself for when post-vaccine and post-treatment options, there's going to be an explosion, not just in the economy probably, but in and by the way, I don't listen to me on anything as being concrete. I make this shit up as I go along. So don't make any life decisions based on what I'm saying. But it feels to me that if we get ready now, and when we come out of this, you'll be at the front of the herd that's going to rush into all these things. So you don't want to be in the end of the pack. You want to be in the beginning of the pack and lead the charge. And so how do you prepare? Well, everybody's different. For me, I'm trying to streamline my workflow. I'm trying to. You saw how many plugins I have, and when you have too much information coming at you from a screen, it hurts your creativity. So I've been trying to pare it down to just my go-to plugins. Now, I'm a little different than, say, a producer because, like, you brought me a session, and if I didn't have all the plugins that you used, I can't start where you left off. And so I'm spending an hour trying to recreate a sound that you love and want it to be that way because I don't have the same plugin you do. So I have to have every plugin so I can work correctly with my clients. But I don't have to have them in my folder. I can pull them in or have my staff pull them in as we need them. I think there are some opportunities here. I'm not able at this point in time to see those clearly, but I think that someone in your position is, I think you're going to come out of it ahead of where you went in. It'll take an extra 4 or 5 months, possibly, but I really feel like that's going to be the case. because the industry is going to be, it's not going to be so important to go somewhere to work. It'll be more important to for people to come to you where you are, and where you are is in a comfortable place. And I give up an hour and a half of my day every day just going to and from work. So if I have a studio that's either really on my property, or I prefer a standalone, you know, so it's not, so I don't have to come in the house, but you know, that could be a good thing, you know, that comes out of this. You know, take your time and build a world-class build out, you know.
Yeah.
That would give me extra 15 hours a week. No, that'd give me an extra 45 hours a month. That's 3 more mixes a month.
Yeah, that's a very interesting way to look at it. I mean, one of the things that struck me when I was there in LA working with you was that I thought that we were going to be in the studio all day long, working like all day long, whereas most of the time we were just chatting and having fun. And then once every like 20 minutes of conversation, you would like go back to the mix, and it was like a switch went on, and like you would just focus. And so that's another interesting thing. Like focus seems to be like you would work intensely for another 20 minutes and then relax. Is that something that you always do, or is it like, are you very like random, like it just happens whenever it happens?
If I'm working without the client, I don't do that so much. But when you were there, I was trying to get information without being obvious, so that I could make the mix tailored to your needs. And and sometimes I'm not saying you were like this, but sometimes when a client comes into a room that they've never been into before, their decision making can be not quite as useful to me as it could be if you were very familiar with that room. So we played songs that I thought you knew, and then so that gave you a feel for how the room sounded, and then you were comfortable around me to tell me what you wanted, you know, and have a policy that when we're in the room and when we're working, no please, no thank you, no being polite, just, hey dumbass, I don't like that kick drum. I'm like, okay, cool. What are you hearing? You know, I like that flow because it doesn't take me out of my creative space. And then when we go outside, you can be polite, and I'll be polite. But when you're working and you're trying to keep that focus as long as you can, it's hard. It's really hard. And how many times have you worked 4 or 5 straight hours on a song, and then went to sleep, woke up the next morning and only kept 30 minutes worth, because you have to get away from it every once in a while, and everybody takes a different amount of time so that you can objectively evaluate what you've done. I tend to work from my heart. I'm a very technical person, but that comes easy to me, and so my heart is in my creative work, you know. I like to get a little bit of Miami in everything I do. I like to get a little bit of Cuba in everything I do. I like to get the things I learned from my mother, who was a musician. And then I grew up essentially in the southeast part of America, and so groove and feel is everything down there. Fame Studios, Muscle Shoals, all of those are part of my childhood, and so I like to get a little bit of all of that into what I do, you know.
Yeah.
And focusing is the hardest thing an engineer has to do, because there's so many technical things that that steal that focus away from you. And but I think that, and every day is not a great day. You know, some days you have to talk yourself into being creative, or give yourself the opportunity. A technique I use is if I'm not being creative, I'll start looking for parts of the production where, or maybe there was a comp that wasn't quite crossfaded correctly, and I'll fix that, and then or I might fix a timing thing or a note, or and then next thing I know, I'm working on the kick drum, and I don't remember doing it, and then I'm going, damn, this kick drum sounds great. I love it. And so you allow yourself the opportunity to just flow into it naturally, and that's something that'll catch your ear, and you have an idea for it, and everybody's different, but for me, a mix has to groove, has to feel good, it has to vibe, it has to be emotional, and most importantly, it needs to make the lead singer the star of the whole production and the star of the entire mix, particularly in today's world, because we tend to use a lot of programmed drums, you know, and so the beauty of programmed drums is they provide you with a real nice solid foundation where you can make the lead vocal or all the vocals move on top of that. So if you're with a live band and everything moves together, here's the vocal, here's the band, and you do this, that's pretty cool, and it gives you a certain feel and vibe. But with programmed drums, you do this, and so the energy is in the vocal and in the performance and all of that. So you saw how I manipulated some of the words to create a performance that's amplified by that sameness. And those things are judgmental things, and they're no right or wrong. There can be lots of wrongs, but it takes a little bit of focus, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't want to kiss your ass, but I remember when I stepped into that studio and we started working, I had the impression that you were the first person who ever truly connected with one of my songs, because it was the first time that one of my songs actually sounded as I envisioned it, and it was sort of a revelation to me. I was like, oh, he gets it. And I don't know how to articulate it, but I think it's that quality that makes you such a great engineer. And I don't know, it's probably focus, musicality, taste. I don't know, it could be all those things put together, but ultimately it's that capacity to connect to the music that I think makes you a great engineer.
I think as a musician, I started being an engineer fairly late. I was in my mid-30s, but I had experience playing in front of 60,000 people. I had experience of entertaining drunks. I had the experience of entertaining people that wanted to kill certain band members because they didn't look like they did. And so I had a lot of experiences in terms of how to entertain people. And so I apply that same concept to mixing, and then if you called me up and you said, hey Dave, I'm going to the Grammys tonight, can you possibly run by Neiman Marcus and grab me a tuxedo, a shirt, a tie, and some shoes, and let's say I've never met you. What can I do? You know, I mean, I guess I could bring a tailor and have him shorten the pants and get a waistband that's elastic so maybe it'll fit you. But me starting a mix without knowing you is pointless, because I need to know your shoe size. I need to know your tolerance. Like some people want me to change the mix. Some people want me to give the mix a certain direction, and some people just want me to do what I do. And by the way, I love those people. And then some people just want me to take the rough mix and elevate it. And so there's so many decisions I have to make. In fact, one of the things that I think surprised you the most was, well, before we started, I asked you who did you want to buy this record? Like why make a record that nobody wants? You know? And I get surprised when I ask that question, but it seems like the most fundamental question that we need to ask ourselves when we make a record, and that's, who is my audience? How can I reach that audience? And then you would say, well, David, I want to reach a broader audience. Well, the way you reach a broader audience is by getting your core audience fanatic about you, and then they work out for you. So you look at Billie Eilish. She started with a very tiny, small, very, very, very rabid audience, and they were just really into it. And so then we go from Ocean Eyes to, I never can get the title right, Bad Boys or Bad Guy. Anyway, Bad Guy, and that won Grammys and everything. So that's the way you work in today's world. You go for a small sliver of the world instead of a large sliver of America, and then you work out from there. And in the process, you get all of America and all the world. And she did it beautifully. And Phineas is a friend of mine, and so they just made the record they wanted to make.
Yeah. And that's, I think, why it stands out so much, because it's different. It's undeniably different, yet it's also commercial. So it's the perfect balance. Is there anything else you want to share with us? Because, I mean, I think we got plenty of material. I don't want to bother you any further.
I mean, ask me a couple of questions that you think have a universal appeal, and I'll try and answer them succinctly.
Well, I think in a way you've already answered this, but if you were to, like, what advice would you give to our fellow musicians who are struggling right now because of everything that happened?
Well, I would say first and foremost, stop believing everything you hear. In fact, I don't watch anything to do with any type of predictions or where the virus is now, or predictions of when we can come back. And still, I know a lot about it because everybody in my life is telling me these things, friends and stuff. Focus on the moment, and the moment can be a little bit lonely right now. It can be, you might have, like I had to learn how to not have a team around me. I had to learn how to do a lot of things myself, and embrace that as something that's fun. If you don't enjoy what you're doing in music, just get out now, because you're taking a slot up from somebody that wants to enjoy it, and it might not be your thing. I hear people say, "Man, I've got a passion for mixing. I've got a passion for mixing." It would be dangerous, because your skill set might be running a large corporation, but you'll spend 10 or 15 years trying to follow this passion, and then after 15 years you're going to go into the business world. Why not go now and then after 15 years you'll be running a major company as opposed to starting your business career. So don't be tricked by passion. Passion is not really something that helps a career as much as people might think, in my opinion. I think that making the journey more fun and more important than the destination is the way to success. So going back to like Billy and Phineas, they weren't trying to get famous. They were just trying to make records they liked. And so that's the journey. The journey for me was I went from zero. I had never engineered. I played a lot of sessions, so I was a little bit familiar with studios, but I never engineered anything. And man, it was like a virus, and I couldn't stop wanting to be an engineer the first day I did it, and I stayed so long at the studio without going home. My hygiene suffered a little bit. I had to go home, but I came right back, and so I never dawned on it. It never dawned on me that it would be a career, and it was just fun, you know. I'd go to clubs and I'd tell the band, "Hey man, I'll record you for free if you want to drop by the studio," and I just had fun. And then one day I woke up and one day 15 years later, I woke up in L.A. and um, I was an engineer, and I had a lot of success that first year because I didn't sound like anybody else. I had good taste, and I knew where I wanted music to go, and a lot of people didn't like what I was doing, but a few million did, enough for me to have, I don't know how many #1 records my first year. It was quite a few. I don't want to tell you because it's embarrassing, but so much so that a group of engineers got together and said, "We don't want you here." And I thought to myself, "Damn, I'm that good? That's kind of cool, you know?" And then 6 months later, we're all friends. But the journey was more fun because, oh man, that's how you do that. That's how you do that. Oh, and just like everybody else, I'd see all those knobs, and I'm like, man, I don't know what all these knobs do, but I'm a master one at a time. And so I got my start at a real nice studio, but it was owned by a songwriter artist. His name was Paul Davis. At that time he already had 3 #1 records, and he was pretty famous. So I actually learned to mix from a songwriter and producer, which I think was a good thing. But I'm never worried about. In fact, I kind of drive my managers crazy, and I drive everybody around me crazy because I don't really have any goals or ambitions, or I just like to get up and do something creative and musical every day. And it seems like for the last 25 or 30 years, that's been mixing at a high level.
Yeah.
Put something at the beginning of this show that please don't tell your friends anything Dave said on this show. So I'll tell you a secret that probably will hurt my career. But sometimes I get sad when I finish a mix because I really enjoy working on it, you know. But at some point you have to finish it because you can only make it worse. You never make it better when you go too long. And I'm a big believer in my first impressions. You saw me do that with my first impressions. And when I'm having fun, which is about every mix, I have fun. I don't understand how you can make records for millions of people without having fun with it and without having people around you that are having fun. And you saw me and my 2 assistants. We're like children, you know.
Yeah.
And the other day, there sucks. Are you losing it, buddy? Getting a little old there, Dave? I'm like, go fuck yourself, man. You know, I just had #1 record with Mariah Carey again.
Yeah. No, but I get
did.
it. It's beautiful, and it's exactly like, for me personally, other than the creative aspect of things, the one of the reasons why I love this is because I get to meet people like you, or people like Ed Sheeran, you know, people that I've looked up to for years, and then you actually get to, and it's crazy.
Yeah. Let's be real clear. Ed Sheeran's in a different tier than I'm in, but you know, I'll catch him one day. My philosophy, you know, I've done a few several hundred gold and platinum records, and I don't put any of them around, or I don't think about all of that. And I'm not really trying to get awards. And I think that when you immerse yourself in your successes, it's hard to keep a success going because you're trying to recreate your past, and that never works out in pop music. When I say pop music, I mean hip hop, rock, alt rock, you know, all the types of music except for classical and jazz. And so those are moving targets. And just when you think, man, I got this stuff nailed, man, I can't wait. It changes, and I love that about it. That's what keeps me going. And I've been blessed a few times in my career to lead that change and to make that change. And you're scared because you're on unstable ground. You're out there by yourself, you know. And then I've had a few failures that didn't work out. They still sold a lot of records, but they didn't create a change in the music. And I've had some successes at doing that. I've always felt that that music will lead you where you need to be to stay current, but most people tend to try and lead the music, and that's no way to go. So how can you be in front of music and know where it's going? You have to be behind it to see where it's going. And it's so clear when you think that way. It's easy to be at the forefront of whatever. And I can't tell you the number of people and even a few labels that call me and ask me, where's music going? You know, what's next? And what are you listening to? And send me a list of some new stuff. And I got that from my childhood. When I was 7 or 8 years old, we had 45 records back then, and my friends would always come to me and ask me what they should buy with their allowance. You know, what records should they buy? And I always had opinions, and not because I'm special or anything, but I just always let the music lead me where I think I need to be. I woke up one day in Atlanta. I'm from South Florida, Ybor City and Coconut Grove. I woke up one day in Atlanta, and where I started my career, and I was like, I'm going to London. I think I want to go to London. So that night I took a plane to London, stayed a while, didn't work out, came back, and I thought, man, I did this. I left half my belongings. I don't even know where they are now. But I said, man, I'm gonna drive to LA. I didn't know anybody, and that worked out. So I'm still here. I don't recommend that to people because my time period was a little different than today. But I think there's some usefulness in that thought process of not worrying so much about things and just do music. It's just music. It's just 12 damn notes. I mean, how hard is that to manipulate, you know? It's almost impossible. That's how hard it is sometimes.
Yeah.
But stop trying to be great and just be great. And if you play your work, I told you this, if you play your work for 10 people, 3 should violently hate it and actually want to like bring bodily harm to you. 3 should go, hey man, yeah, that's pretty good, but they would never pay you or buy it. And 4 people should go, I got to have this stuff. You got to work for me, Dave. Whatever it takes, just name your price. Here's the keys to my Ferrari. I've got a house in Malibu. I'll give you the keys to that. You've got to work for me. And if you don't have that ratio, you can't lead and take music where a notch into the future without the haters, because the haters are a barometer of how far you've gone from the middle of the pack to lead the pack. And I struggle with that rejection to this day. It kills me when somebody doesn't like what I do, but then I realize I have to have those 3 people at the bottom in order to judge how far I'm pushing things. And I think that's a good way to be. I don't think that's for everybody. And some days it's not for me because I'm a Spaniard. You hate what I do. You have to have some retribution there, you know, but I can't do that. I have to use it as a badge of honor and tell myself, okay, he's comfortable in the middle of the road. I'm comfortable over on this little side road. where I can go 120 miles an hour and won't run into anything over here. And I think that's something that maybe you can modify within today's structure and within today's world and with your own needs. And Vincent van Gogh, the painter, who was a brilliant man, he wasn't an idiot like a lot of people think he was. He was very well educated. He said, I'm not quoting, but I'm close. He said, one must never trust the time one is without difficulties. And to be good at many things, you first master one thing, and in mastering one thing, you've mastered many things. And that's kind of the foundation of my career. I read that it was a letter to his brother Theo. I read that in college, and it's been my motto since then.